Right, so it's the 21st of October 2024, and I'm just going to give you a bit of an update of the differences between this time last year and this year. Where this year there's more in the way of malicious setups, or this time last year there were setups, but there's hardly any. The threats are, actually, I'm telling the truth here, 10 times worse. When you consider I only have 1 to 10 threats, and yeah, per day, then yes, it is 10 times nastier. Notice this was this time last year. September, however, I was camping in the area where I used to live, and had more severe threats than ever. Even when I used to live there, every night at Barrow I had to camp in a different area because I was being threatened to be knifed. Someone's car got smashed up near where I was, because obviously they thought I was Sven, and because this Sven is a possibility he drives, so I had to witness that. But luckily it's in a CCTV area, which they didn't know about, which is like a CCTV camera that they have in that area, which is hidden, which I already knew about because the police mentioned it when I was talking about another incident that goes back a few years, well, quite a few years ago, of some issues and setups in that area. Last year you had loud bikes to erections, as is occurring now, but there was a 6-week period where you was record-breaking amount for the whole history of loud bikes to erections. Animal voice sounds weren't very great, but they're worse this year than they were last year. I wasn't smoking this time last year. I lost 400 quid, 2 lots of 200 quid in the months of this time last year. And the payment I made, I didn't attend the thing for the payment I made this time last year. I lost that as well. Also, this time last year I was thinking about moving on from discs to a digital format, because I found out that they stopped making laptops with disk drives and things like that. To the conversations that I heard where they stopped making discs and all that sort of stuff, so I was thinking of that as well. This September and the month before, the Matty neighbour who was living there was actually quite calm, believe it or not. They sort of started to kick off around the end of, or in the month of October, so there was some days where it was getting worse. If I remember, September was a very calm month. Obviously I'm smoking, so allow a few seconds for me to discuss what I need to discuss. There was a few threats outside this time last year, but it wasn't dramatic. It was here and there. This year is a lot different. This year is a bit more like 2022, where it was very nasty. People shouting at me in the streets and trying to chase me with a knife, or threatening to fucking kill me, or to whatever, or photographing me. It's a lot worse than this year. If I remember, this time last year I was at Mudford, Ilchester, and I was doing walks around, and you had mostly sunny weather. But even 2023, you had some form of cloud cover, roughly about 6 24-hour days in total, discounting the time period I stayed at my dad's. This year, even when I stayed at my dad's, it was mostly sunny in the 6 weeks I was there. You have to discount that period, but working on the principle that it's definitely sunnier this year than it was in 2023. And 2022 was, we had a lot more rain and cloud, and well, not so much cloud but rain in 2022 than you did in 2023 and 2024. So also this time last year, I could walk in the town. The sneezes that were occurring in 2022 as a reoccurrence in 2024. Setups weren't great, they were like heavy setups, but they're sort of not as malicious or absolutely piss taken as what they are now. There was an incident where I was mistaken as Scott back this time last year, and also this time last year I was speaking to Christopher Dando, who is Sadie Dando's brother, the hard one in the family, because obviously he has no issues with me, because obviously he's found out that all the stuff with the Sadie business that occurred before 2011 is a load of nonsense. My speculation is Ricky Hux may have some communication, or it was the person that was mostly with Sadie. And also, when I went to Bridgewater Carnival in sort of one time period, obviously she'd go back with Ricky, or Ricky would always be with Sadie at all times. So between what they've done, if anything's happened, is between them, nothing to do with me, my cousin, or anybody else. So back this time last year, the Sadie threat was very rare. However, the Scott threat, or Scott wanting to kill you, someone named Scott, or me being mistaken as Scott, was here and there, as being mistaken as that person. Dorchester was mentioned when that specific name occurred, but Scott wanting to knife you dead, or wanting to smash you in or kill you, was the main threat, in particular this time last year. This time last year was also another year, because I didn't really go out after 10 PM. Actually, in the time period when Matty was living here, it's very, very rare I actually left the building after 10 PM. Probably about the maximum of 10 times in the whole time I've lived here that I've been out after 10 PM before Matty got evicted on the 2nd of May 2024 for trying to take the staff door down with a knife. I won't give a surname, obviously. I won't give any more details because it's not my business. That's as far as I can go on that subject. Right, we have a problem with burning, and sort of this problem that didn't occur this time last year. That's all started this year from the 1st of January onwards. The attitude of the neighbours in general seems to be a lot calmer this year than it was last year, or since the burning situation began. My beer drinking was increasing a little bit, but not by much. Later on this month, or roughly November, whenever it was, I did go into gin, vodka, but I was mostly mixing it with lemonade rather than doing shots. As far as smoking goes, I wasn't smoking, but if we go back to early 2023, I did buy a pouch and I was smoking, or I was sharing my dad's roll-ups while visiting him. This year I've been smoking for 6 months solid. Also, this time last year, my bank account was, I'm trying to think, I think it was over double what it is now. What's in my bank now is pretty much literally nothing. So, just enough to pay bills. I'm not exactly sure the amount, and obviously it's private what I'd have in there anyway, but all I can say is it's not much at all, which is not good news. And it could mean quite difficult times if I decide to move from this place. Also, this time last year, I was moaning about the issue of the being on gold banding with a home finder to the social worker before that social worker left me. And being rejected first position on bidding on places, which at that time was near my father's. Just this week, I bidded on a place, quite literally the same building of where I bidded this time last year, or just a bit before this time last year, and it was the same result as it was back when I bidded at that time. There's not really much in preference of where I'm going. You just got to try and avoid the slums and the roughneck people that are going to smash you to fucking pieces and take your head off with a fucking knife or fucking rug or baseball bat or whatever, and make up stuff on sexuality. Going back to the Sadie Dando threat, that threat came in at the Fathers for Justice event, that time period, that exact time period. There was a few threats coming here and there from the Palace nightclub and the Squib pub, which is next to the building where I lived, and it got quite nasty at times, but not out of hand. Another, there was sort of mixed up side. There was a mixed up side of people saying, because there was enemies that knew I never had anyone, and that's going back at that time, and they seemed to be intelligent or had some knowledge or something where they knew it was not, where they knew it was made up. When we reached the end of 2011, all this stuff where her name was being mentioned died down completely, although there was a few people that were still lingering with that threat. Most of the people that went to the Palace nightclub and the Squib bar, it all died down, and I went into this Chasing Sally threat. In mid-2012, the Sadie threat died out completely. Skipping on to when I moved to Burnham, you'd get times where the Sadie threat would occur, but oddly enough it would be within the mix of people of my ex-mugger Dan Morgan, who was living at Barrow at that time. However, the threats, really the first 8 months I actually moved there, apart from the experience with Dan, seeing him, we're avoiding, there was literally no threats at all. Just one person that smashed up a van saying just in time on the side of it, which was a white van with green writing. This is not the same just in time van as the just in time van with the double bell alarm clock being smashed by a cartoon character where it says just in time in the middle of the double alarm clock. And basically it's got a picture of a mallet from a cartoon character of a rough looking type bearded person, but in a cartoon drawing, smashing a double bell alarm clock saying just in time, and all the springs are flying everywhere, and it's like a greenish colour on a white van. So it's a very similar colour to the initial just in time van. 8 months, no threats at all, not any. Just a couple of people that were shouting on their bikes here and there. Again, they look like they're connected to Dan, but even so, it started to calm down. The threat started to increase a little bit here and there. But as far as the Sadie threat goes, it was very rare until around about the year of 2018-ish, March, April 2018, where it sort of escalated a little bit. And it didn't really last, it sort of here and there, but it was a little bit more than what it was initially, but it didn't take off. And then you had the eye problem that I was getting, that occurred in the same time period at my old place, until I was camping out, staying at Nan's, staying at Dad's. When it comes to this specific person, this Sadie person, this sort of, just before the lockdown, it just sort of went quiet. There's one specific day when, I think it was November, I went out, just had one specific day, and I walked into a whole load of people shouting their heads off, kicking off shit and whatever else. when I was walking to Highbridge, I think it was, I'm not sure. And it was that one day, and then pretty much through the Christmas period, even though you had people sort of walking past to go and visit to see the carnival, well, I don't know if, the carnival, and to see the Christmas decorations around from where I am, you didn't really have that many threats out of the hundreds of thousands of people that were walking past. It was pretty calm. During the lockdown, the threat was basically gone when that Sadie threat. However, there was new threats coming in, mistaking me as Sven, that sort of came in a bit before 2018. But that was all occurring. But I'm just referring to the Sadie business at this moment in time. When I moved to Yeovil, there was a person that had a red coat on that I recognised from seeing where I used to live, with some rough people in his 40s. But he didn't get no trouble as such. But there was problems, issues and threats and whatever that were occurring. Then I went to Tesco's for the first time I've ever been to that Tesco's in Yeovil. In the first 2 weeks I've been here, and there's about 30 or 40 people starting on me, mistaking me as Sven. Yeah, it's 8 years ago since I actually last visited Yeovil, before I actually moved there. Apart from being taken here by the social worker on a visit, and then the next day or two moving in, then that was it basically. This person who nicknamed his name Scott, pretended to be a single lady wanting to contact me, and not exactly sure what the source of the problem and why that is caused. He wanted to smash me up with a knife onto the railway track at Highbridge railway station at a specific time, because I didn't meet him there, I met him in Bridgewater. He wanted to start there, and he said that my name's not the name I am, and he said he was going to smash me out, and he filmed me with his phone, and I had to sort of shout for help, because there's no way I could stand up to a person who's fucking built like a brick shit house. That would have been the same time period as this Sadie Dando threat increasing in Yeovil for the first time. When we came to, as the time moved on, the threat was not really, it was escalating, but it wasn't too bad. And then I was trying to contact my old social worker from my old place to explain that some of the stuff that's not true is coming out as lies and threats and stuff like that, and is getting nasty, and even the police were questioning specific subjects, not so much the Sadie but other things, and not sexual but also other things. So when I contacted a social worker, I said, has the information been sent through, or has anything been mentioned, was information got lost from the process of me moving from that place to this place because of stuff that's reoccurring now, and also I was being accused of other things that are not true. They basically told me when I spoke to them on the phone, she did actually contact me, she said we can't do nothing now that you're in that area, and I had issues with breathing problems because of the smell of petrol in the building in 2022. I did a 111 call, and it was my old doctor that I used to know that changed his position in jobs, and he now works for the 111 service, which is a very rare occurrence. And I was speaking to him for about an hour on the phone on the 111 service, also in 2022, explaining the new situations and how I was getting on at this place and all the rest of it. And he said what he'd do is he'd try and write a letter to send to the council to try and move my banding to get me up to a better banding. Eventually my banding was changed, but he didn't expect the things to change how they were when I moved there. But let's go further in, because we're supposed to be speaking about this time last year and how it is today. So if you go through the months, the Sadie download threat started to increase in basically the escalation of it started November last year, and it started getting nastier and nastier. December, it was very nasty. However, New Year's Eve was calm considering New Year's Eve 2022, where everyone fucking threatened to smash me and to knife me to the floor, to inject me with weed killer and AIDS, and to bash me, to break in, to knock my fucking head off, to kick my fucking head around like a fucking rugby ball, smash all my teeth out, to break all my fucking arms and legs off, to pour petrol over me and set me alight, to throw me in a fucking slurry pit, smash my head on a fucking car tow bar, and to fucking tie my fucking neck to a car tow bar and fucking drag me along the road and stuff like that. So we come into January, the Sadie threat overtakes the initial threats that occurred between 2008 and 2011, which means it's worse than the initial threats that began, when the threat first began, that is, and at its worst part would have been around about 2009 and 2010 when the threats occurred. But when we reached January 2024, those threats overtook the amount of Sadie threats that I had in the initial time when it was at its height, when I was living not at my old place but the place before that. So and then obviously as we come into the year, April onwards, April was an in-between month, and it just got really, really nasty in June. We went for a calm stage in the beginning part of July. Straight after July the 6th, they just went haywire. The threat went off the scale, and the threats and the other problems were what they were in 2022. Going back to the setups this time last year, or structural force around me, it was struggling to breathe, and this is caused by what's causing the burning, I'm not sure, and a mixture of smoking. The structural force, the setups, when we came out of lockdown, they were suddenly stepped up very heavy, because they did die down, as I've mentioned on many videos. Before the lockdown, a year before the lockdown, well actually 2 years before the lockdown in fact, there's days where it wasn't good, but the setups are nothing like they are today. I mean, you had that, I remember when it's 2006, you could go out, and some days, it's very rare, but you'd go out and you'd have half a sheet of paper of problems, or one sheet of problems. Nowadays you've got at least 16 pages every day of problems. So anyway, back to the setups. This time last year the setups weren't too bad, but Conservatives were in power. Now the setups have got as heavy and as nasty as what they were when Labour were last in power, basically. And the type of structural force that's being enforced against me, and the suggestions are going back 15 years ago. So when there's sort of the Sadie threat, the Stephanie suggestion, and you also got Animals recently, especially in the last month or so, trying to dictate me and tell me that I've had sex with Amy Weston when I haven't, and saying I'm going to burn in the fire of hell. Animals are also telling me my bank details, bank account numbers, pins, and telling people in a conversation, in the way it's coming out, to rob my bank and stuff like that. Seagulls, birds and Twitter, whatever, also telling me to fuck people that raped me as a child, or telling me that you can be sexually abused as a child in your next life, and taking the piss at me in that way. And they were actually doing that when they were on the roof, when I was being sexually abused as a child in this life. Animals are saying you're a child rapist, and very clearly, and saying you're being knife dead, and saying kill Justin and kill whatever. As if the government are playing with the dark arts, or doing rituals to cause these animals to speak. Although they were making the suggestion that they're going to play about with me in a fireplace with poker sticks in my next life and drink my blood before burning me, it was 2022 when they started making that suggestion. We've had similar suggestions that go back before the lockdown, but not as malicious and as nasty as what it is now. Your average threats per day is 40 at the moment. In 2022 it's between 40 and 100, 140-ish maximum, but there were days where it could be over 200. It was the same for people photographing me mistakenly as event for the year 2022. Literally every single day of that year. Over 40 threats each and every single day. Because I think that was a year where I was chased with a knife and I ended up posting USB sticks of documentation of 15 years of evidence of people, of shit that's going around me, which I posted to the Russian government in June 22. Alex Jones Infowars, which is a conspiracy theorist in America. Washington White House government buildings in America and the Australian government. It cost me quite a lot of money, but because I was feeling I was going to be hit off, I had to get my say before it's too late. And I posted it to these other organisations before, but it was back when I was using discs, and it goes back to 2013 or something like that, 2012. So this is the first lot of things I posted since that time. The stuff that they would have included is you're being shot, you're being raped as a baby in your next life, you're a sick cunt, you're not having anyone. We fucked your life up. We told everyone you're a rapist to put you in jeopardy, and we slice yours with the creator God and tearing you apart, whatever. 2023, all this setup sort of it was a calmish year. 23 was quite a calm year. This year's gone back to the nastiness it was in 2022 and late 21. And even before I moved, as soon as we came out of lockdown, all the troubles increased. Because these setups were making the suggestion you paid the price of these problems that you've done. But the problem is, I've paid the price for something I haven't done. Those setups dropped completely. And then they decided to go into a lockdown. And then when we come out of lockdown, you've got new force against you. And it's a lot heavier than what it is before. So, and like I was saying, this time last year you didn't have the burning problem of the use of possible energy weapons. We had the eye problem at my old place, and this is why I had to move to this place, because camping because of it. And I've had to contact Becky, which is, can't say her surname, but to the Bridgewater branch that I used to have communication with, to mention the latest problems, which I mentioned to her about 2 months ago, to explain that we've got a similar problem occurring there. Right, also, this time last year they were timing lookalikes to people that sexually abused me as a child, trying to get an erection, followed by a baby bounced about in a sling. That's a common setup. That happens on a regular basis, daily sometimes more than once daily. Before the lockdown it occurred, but it wasn't that often. It was mostly tying bikes to erections or loud bikes to erections. But at every erection, with never a miss, and still the same today. This year in particular, they've been timing a t-shirt that says "Make love, not war." Age is just a number, it's love that counts. Spill your guts, which is a black t-shirt that says "Spill your guts." And over 50's too old and under 50's fine. They timed those 3 t-shirts after I looked like someone who sexually abused me as a child tied to an erection. Although it's bad, even though you have bad days before the election, all this trouble and all this action and everything else has just suddenly kicked off the scale since that specific time when Labour got in power. Now, it might not be because it might be coincidence, but all the trouble, all the setups, all this organised force and whatever has just suddenly kicked off since that time. So the sort of things that have been occurring, shall we say, in the last month or this, take into account this time last year you had setups, you had lots of wording on vocals, but it's not like it is now. Stuff that's occurring now is, we wish your family dead, your family are dead, ha ha ha, or we're taking the piss, applying that your family are crippled and going ha ha with suggestions of setups. We're going to tear you to pieces and slice your wrist with a creator God and take you apart in your next life. We want you sexually slaughtered. We want you killed, we want you shot so we can do this. Making the suggestion you can have no say in your next life because we'll have technology, we'll have blank discs or USB sticks or external hard drives to get your say, and posting it to other countries or things like that is saying we're going to fucking have you stuck and we're going to rip you to fucking pieces. You're living up to your name just in time. Serve time. So that's the way it is. So it's getting nastier and nastier. As far as feeling suicidal, stuff like that goes, it sort of runs in order. Sort of the 2021 felt, even though there's a lot of trouble and threats, it didn't feel as negative as what it does now. 2022 was negative because of all the threats, but it didn't feel fucking to a point where you were on the floor. 2023, even this time last year, you could have some sort of feel like you feel okay to some extent. This year you just fucking feel like you're fucking down under. You feel 3 times more down than you did this time last year. The amount of people giving me threats is at least 10 times worse than it was this time last year. And since Labour got in power and the Liberal Democrats for the local election, but let's go to the Liberal Democrats. I mentioned this and it's already on YouTube. There's a person that drives a ripping you to pieces paper shredder van, which is a stationary van, which is discontinued, but the name still remains on the side of the van. Every time I was passing the Vote Liberal Democrats, winning here, poster, that van would pass me. And it passed me over 30 plus times between the month of April and when we had the election in July. Initially, these people thought I was surveilling their shouting to smash me in. They saw me on a regular basis and they started to know who I was, so they started smiling and started laughing when they passed me, passing the Liberal Democrats sign. And then obviously the people that were driving the ripping you to pieces van decided to make their own, and they put a Vote Liberal Democrats on the side of their van, but it wasn't an official one, it was just one that they made to put on the side of the van. And when they passed me again, they beat their horn and they laughed at me, and I looked at their van, and on the ripping you to pieces van it said Vote Liberal Democrats, which they put on there. And a couple of weeks pass and it turns out true, they do win the election in the local area, and obviously the Labour won the main party. Now initially I didn't get to vote because I didn't get in time, I didn't get a letter, but if I was to vote I would have voted Conservatives, the ones that are already in. There's a lot of new worded vehicle vans names and whatever, t-shirt names that have occurred since I moved to Yeovil, and most of these are occurring at the moment, this minute in time, but all in all it was quite bad in 2022 and 2022. So you got a knife down t-shirt, ripping you to pieces paper shredder van as I mentioned, smash you to pieces rubble smashing flatbed lorry, child rakist van, child Leicester van, Rico van, RT Keedwell, rent a kill, roadkill, bash your brains in t-shirt jumper, making a kill, which is the DVD or computer game that's carried, knife down jumper, what else is there? There's basically a lot. This is just a small number. They'd like to time the rocking donkey van with a wheel of fire van and a boards van together for some reason.
They time a vehicle that says "time to get busy," often following a manslaughter T-shirt or gothic jumper, black jumper type thingy, or a murder jumper. It doesn't happen so much at the moment, but they make the suggestion that they can rip you to pieces in your next life. So there's like an afterlife vehicle with, with like a van that says ripping you to pieces or whatever. And then see you next life, trash cowboy, followed by a destroy the grot plot van, which is a bleach van. The other thing that didn't occur this time last year is I've been accused of raping a boy, but the boy's name has the same name as someone who sexually abused me as a child, and they're getting aggressive about it. So they're twisting it basically. I don't know who the boy is, but I'm accused of raping this boy, and there's a person that Saven's raped and is coming back at me in threats. This time last year, it was the beginning of me getting threats with the type of information of what Saven's done, or the sort of suggestion that what he's done is coming back at me under my name. Before this time last year, say this time in 2022, my name wasn't mentioned at all. In actual fact, there's less than 100 threats with my name mentioned in the whole year of between late 2021 and the whole of 2022. Most of the people that were mistaken was either Liam or Saven. Liam was more popular as a threat going back to September 21 to about September 2022, but it's mostly Saven at the moment. But now it's coming with my real name. But the things that Saven does, like drives a car or plays a guitar or the type of laugh he has or stuff, whatever, is coming back under my name. Apparently this person's raped children at a playing school and has worked as a teacher, according to people in Sherborne that were giving me threats in December last year, which was getting violent and nasty against me, which ended up in a shop window being smashed near where I was walking, where this person lost his temper thinking I was that person when I'm not Saven. So it's there was definitely a lot calmer this year, even with that neighbour that's been evicted. So obviously this month onwards, just a little bit past this month, and things did kick off. It wasn't great. There's always been noisy, there's always been banging, but there's quite a lot of personal stuff that I'd like to mention as well, but the thing is it would cause trouble if I mention it, and obviously it's true. There's one person that I remember before I moved here called Rob. Well, there's 3 Robs I was speaking to in fact, but one of those Robs I showed my identification, my birth certificate, which is my original one, not a repress, the original birth certificate, real McCoy. Same for the national insurance number, and obviously my passport, which was also one before the Saven threat came in. And then obviously he got on with me okay. When I went camping in September last year to visit the area where I used to live, because of the heat wave being 34 degrees Celsius, he didn't want to know me and he thought I was Saven, and he forgot I showed him the evidence to prove who I was, and everyone in the shops were giving me shit. There's about 1,000 threats, roughly, or just over 1,000 threats in a matter of about 9 days, which included one night staying there as well. So yeah, things were different. The only place I went where I didn't get trouble and where the people recognised me was the library. Even the lady that works in the new age shop, who I was speaking to on a regular basis about a year before I moved there, she was getting on with me okay. When I went on a visit back in September last year, she told me to get out of the shop saying that you're a sicko Saven, but that's not my name. So they've been twisting it, been shit stirring and causing trouble. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on different YouTube channels. There's quite a few different YouTube channels where I've stated all this stuff. A lot of them I've lost the passwords to, so they're just sort of left on there for people to look at. But yeah, there's definitely been a lot of trouble. I mean, that was the only really nasty part of last year, was that time period in September of doing that camping trip in the heatwave. I used to live in North Peverton going back to 2003 and before. There's people starting on me, but that's literally nothing to the threats that I had this time. So what I had, I mean, it was a bit more nasty. There was times where people got nasty in the evenings, but there's different. I camped at Kingscliff Woodland just before I moved there. Taking away that one incident where someone thought I was surveilling and wanted to smash me in with a knife in the middle of the in the forest, getting aggressive, shouting where I had to call 999. Take that one incident away, you had about, in one night you had the equivalent to 1 week's worth of trouble was when I was camping there before I moved. And the amount of people that were starting on me, I only had to move my tent once when I was camping near my old place, because of issues in the sort of 2-month period I was camping. In the few days that I went there this time, I had to move every single night, and the amount of people that were giving it some was about 5 times more nastier than what it was when I was living there, and they were all mistaking me as Sven. When I was in Asda, I was only in there 20 minutes before I had an appointment. I had nearly 100 people start on me or give me trouble thinking I was that person and photographing me. On the one evening, I came back from a walk in the woodland, and you had the police up there and an ambulance, and this person, there was blood on the floor because there was an argument because they wanted to kill Sven. So whoever this person was that had the argument didn't look at me, so obviously he knows what the proper Sven looks like, because when he saw me it was like there was no problem. The police came over to my tent and said I chose quite a good area. They said the way you put it, said that's pretty good. They said they don't really like people camping, but because you're not causing trouble, whatever. They said basically you're away from people. You're not distracting anyone. There's no children about in that area, and said stuff like that. And they said they were quite happy and said that's a good place. But they said if the farmer does tell you you have to get off, you have to get off, sort of thing, because it was near the field like. The other incident that occurred when I was camping is this person's car got smashed up, and people were jumping on it, shouting their heads off, smashing all the windows in the car, not far from where I was going to initially camp, because they thought it was Sven's car, because Sven drives, according to these people that were making this threat. But as I said earlier on, this is on CCTV. They didn't know there's a CCTV in that area. Right, actually walking back on the final night, coming back to Yeovil, obviously it was in September this time last year. The year before I was actually Portland and Weymouth camping. These camping trips have sort of come to an end these days. I'm getting too old for them, only joking, but I don't do them. The morning I walked out, there was every single dog walker or person passed me who thought I was a friend, Sven, and they sort of give me a threat or give me an evil look, including the car drivers, even some people at house windows or top windows from the council estate. Every person I saw on the main road, even people were shouting out of cars on there thinking I was that person. So I got on the bus initially, and it was the heaviest record breaking setups as well for that area, because you have sort of really heavy setups, a bit like the setups that occur today, but just became unfortunate on that occasion. 4 times heavier than what it was when I was camping there before, or just before the lockdown. and actually in the time period before I moved there as well, it's 4 times heavier, or if not more. When I was on the bus, there was 12 people that were starting on me on the bus, so I had to change decks. When I got onto one of the decks, so I was on top or bottom deck, whatever, top or bottom deck, people were starting on me. I was going to get off at the bus station at Taunton, or near there, Castle Street or whatever the name is, and I couldn't. I had to get off at the bottom, so I got off there. As I got off, I went to walk towards Aldi's. 6 people in Aldi started on me, and the police officer heard it. So he actually heard it in there, because he was in there. He heard the Savenne threat. When I walked out of Aldi's, a woman in the car said, "You're not going to fucking get anything. We stopped you getting anything," because they thought I was Savenne and whatever. And then a bearded bloke in the car straight after that started on me after that. You had the fish bar, and there's 2 people that were shouting their heads off out the window, thinking I was Savenne, saying you're being shot dead and knifed down or whatever. Then there's 2 people that are walking past on the path on one side of the road giving me trouble as well, and then there's more people after that. When I walked to the bus stop, there's a couple of people that give me threats from cars passing, shouting, thinking I was Savenne. Once that all initially passed, when I got on the bus and there was a few more threats or whatever, more people that are passing, there's also some people on the back of the bus, on the Taunton bus coming to Yeovil, who gave me trouble as well. But it was mostly photographing me. It wasn't too bad. And then, just to sum it up, finally, there was one threat coming from the bus station to this place as well, to add to that, of that specific day, in the morning of that, of September 2023, after the, what I did. This has already been put on YouTube, this has already been documented, but I just want to sort of remind you to add to this documentary for this time last year and the differences. Although that did occur 1 year ago, that was the only time period of last year where it was really nasty. This year is like it every day since July, just after the 6th, so just after Labour got in power. So much the same every single day. There's not been a single day where I've gone out without trouble since that time. So this year is definitely a lot different. However, in Yeovil itself, I wasn't getting too much trouble this time last year. So that basically takes you to that, the end of what I wanted to mention on that part. Right, this time last year, health-wise, I was a bit more healthier than I am this year. But I think a lot of this is caused by what's causing the burning, and the burning in the eye and stuff like that. If you had to rate it on a scale of 10, just suppose I was a 9 when I first moved there in 21. 2022 would have been about a 7 or 6. 2023 would be much the same. This year I'd probably put down to a 2. So definitely a very different. There's also been some new paranormal things that have been occurring as well this year. Invisible glass mirrors, so you're walking down a track and you suddenly can't go anywhere. So imagine jumping on a trampoline. When you jump on that, you get a rebound, you can jump off of it. But this is not rebounding. This is like a magnetical force that's stopping you go anywhere. So you're walking somewhere and you just come into a stop, but it's not physically touching you. That started in January when I was walking down a track, and it stopped me going anywhere. While there was a couple of girls or whatever in front coming from the field to walk down the track that I was walking down. That's where it initially started. On another occasion it occurred again when I was trying to make a quick move away from a farmer that was mistaking me as Savenne, getting nasty. Another thing that's occurred, and this has been filmed, we had a stormy day in January 2024. Firstly, a tree branch collapsed on me as I was walking under it, and then a streetlight glass panel fell out of a streetlight, timed as I walked past under it. Then another tree branch collapsed, timed as I walked under it, and then another tree branch flicked off, timed to hit me as it fell on me again. After that, another branch fell off, timed as I walked under it. This is in one walk. I got this filmed. I didn't get all of it filmed, all the instants, but I got. So then a branch got derooted from the ground. It just decided to collapse, timed as I walked under it. After that, there was a brick that collapsed out of the wall, timed as I walked under it. A rock, just where it's watery and muddy, but it decided to fall out, timed as I walked under it. There was a few setups, but it wasn't really that heavy. Then there was another brick that fell out of a wall, timed as I walked to that. Then walking back, obviously this is one of the bestest evidence filming I ever got. A big massive branch fell out of a tree, timed to fall onto my head, and I actually filmed it as it's falling. Because I saw it, I didn't get hit, but it came very close. Then straight after that, there was another tree branch that was timed as I walked under to sight, but a lot lighter. Then finally one blew across, or something caused it to fly past me after that. So that was on one walk in January. So you've had that sort of thing occur as well. If we go back 15 years ago, we had some very unusual paranormal things that have happened. Like metal bars that are, really strong metal bars that human hands can't bend, decided to bend as I walked past in a way where it's done by an unseen hand. That's another thing that's occurred that's unusual. And obviously you've had paranormal experiences where there's a feeling like someone's trying to grab you from behind and there's nobody there, and it gives like a statical feel, makes your back feel cold, and it feels very unnerving, and sort of gives that feeling like clicking sort of static energy around you, but it's like cold energy. It's quite creepy. That's been occurring as well. That's nothing new, that isn't, but that's been happening more this year than it has recently. Anyway, I'm going to leave this documentary here. Give it likes if you enjoy it. It's just to document basically the differences between this time last year and this time this year. This time this year is just on the floor compared to the year before. The year before I didn't feel great, but this year literally feels really fucking low. So I'll leave it there.